Welcome back to another episode of Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I am Troy Farkas, and I am in probably the most beautiful setting that I have recorded an episode of this podcast. I am looking out at the ocean. I'm looking out at a pool. There's kids splashing in the water as they count down the days before they return to school. I'm at the one and only Cliff House here in Maine. I don't know where specifically in Maine. We'll get into that later in today's show, but I'm with the GM, Nancy White of Cliff House. Nancy, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
My pleasure, Troy.
Okay, so I just said there, I don't know where I am. The address says Cape Nettic, which I don't even know what that is. The website says Agunquit. When people talk to me about Cliff House, they say, oh, it's in New York. Where are we?
Great question. We are on the Seacoast. We are, Cape Nettic is like a hamlet of York. It's right between Agunquit and, I don't know how to answer that actually. Sorry.
I feel like you should know that one.
No, Cape Nettic is actually, the Nubble Lighthouse was called the Cape Nettic Lighthouse.
Right.
So Cape Nettic is a portion of York that is a beautiful residential coastline. And we happen to have a beautiful hotel sitting right in the center of Cape Nettic.
Okay. So Cape Nettic, final answer.
Yes.
Okay,
Cape Nettic.
great.
Cape Nettic. Yeah.
Well, before we talk about
Tough
all
question.
I know.
Tough question to start, Troy. Thank you.
Where we, before we talk about the rich history of the Cliff House and all the things that you offer here, I wanted to talk about you specifically. You have a long history in the hospitality industry, so you are a perfect woman for this job. But talk to me about when you first got into this business, just a couple years ago. Why you wanted to get into hospitality.
I'm one of those few people that I just always loved hospitality and hotels. And my dream was to work for a hotel. And in New York City, I lived outside of New York, and that was my dream. And I ended up getting in touch with all these resorts. And then I fell in love with the resorts and destinations and lived in beautiful places like Martha's Vineyard and almost 2 decades out in Scottsdale. And I love, helping people enjoy a relaxing destination and de-stress, and working with, amazing teams that are dedicated in this hospitality business.
So when did this become a dream? Was this little Nancy said, I want to work in hotels?
Yeah, actually, my sister had worked for Bermuda Board of Tourism. So I would meet all these wonderful people for dinner at night. She would bring, when she traveled, she'd bring everyone home, and my mom would make these big dinners, and they would talk about all these beautiful places they worked, and islands and highlands. And I was like, I want to do that too. So I just ended up in that destination, and that's where I arrived.
And you studied this field in college. Take me inside the classroom. What kind of classes did you take?
Oh my gosh. Hospitality is so much fun. Oh, cuisine and, culinary and, working at a front desk and making beds and all those fun things. But I actually went in a direction later on into leadership development. So I combine leadership development with hospitality, and hospitality is really an experiential education. To really work in hospitality, you really love it or you don't. And you love people, and you love, these beautiful locations and traveling. And that's what you fall in love with it. And then, at Cliff House, we're all about creating experiences and memories and special events. And that's what it's really all about. And if you love that and that brings you to life, then you're in the right place.
Yeah. What's most fulfilling about it for you?
It's the people. It's the guests that come back year after year. It's our staff. They're so dedicated. They love what they do, and they're so humble and honored to be part of someone's life for a few days or for a week. And then when our guests come back again, they know them by name. And so it's really the people.
So what drew you to want to work at the Cliff House specifically?
Well, I was consulting for a company that managed the Cliff House back in 2015. And they asked if I would, spend a little time there. They were going through a whole reimagination of the resort and building this beautiful other side of the resort, doubling the size of it. And I came out for a few months, and then it became 6 months through a very rugged winter of through March. And I lived in Arizona, and I left. And then about a year later, they called. I was basically here temporarily and helped them through the reimagination. And then a year later, I returned, and they asked if I would stay. And the person that I had brought in ended up leaving. So I said, no, I live in Arizona. I'm not, I have my family there. And anyway, I ended up returning and fell in love with the rest of the resort and what had happened. And then they were ready to go to phase 2, which was to continue to evolve, which they've done every year. And I just fell in love with it again and never left. So.
Wow, I love to hear that. Now, before we talk about the evolution of Cliff House and what that entailed, I'm a history buff, and so I have to ask about the earliest days of the Cliff House. I mean, this place goes back to mid to late 1800s. What can you tell me about the earliest days of the Cliff House?
Sure. Well, 1872, Elsie Jane Ware had this vision of creating a resort. It was during the Great Railroads when they were bringing them up to Boston, and having a resort and having a place for people to travel. And you have to imagine it was, back in the 1800s, this was like horse and buggy coming up here. It was quite a long journey, similar to Newport, Rhode Island, with the beautiful mansions. So she had this vision of creating an inn, and she had a very large family. And I'm sure she put all the kids to work, and they had just a few rooms, and it went through several generations of the Weir family before the granddaughter retired back in 2014 and sold the resort to our current owners, which are fabulous. And they invested quite a lot on the property.
Oh, wow. So what was the original vision for the Cliff House?
First, I imagine they were probably farmers from England.
Yeah.
And they probably tried to farm, and there's ledge here, so that was a little impossible.
Right.
So they built an inn, and we have a beautiful gallery that we honor for the Weir family, and it has all the pictures back of the 1800s and the 1900s, and it looks like it was one house kind of perched on where our main building is right now, this Cliffscape building, and it has an amazing view of the ocean. You're just perched atop the Bald Head Cliff, and they built some other parts of the hotel back then, and then they rebuilt them many times, I'm sure. I know we rebuilt back in 2015 to 2018, but it's always been, we're on 70 acres. 5 of them are very developed here, everything right around the ocean. And I imagine her vision was just to be in this beautiful place that Mother Nature created. And that hasn't changed. We have an 89-foot cliff right at the edge, and it's Bald Head Cliff. It's like a national park. At least our guests feel that way. And the view is the same. And you're looking out at the Atlantic Ocean and across the pond to England.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's fast forward to modernish day. This transformation that the Cliff House was undergoing, that you joined to be part of, what did you want to improve?
We had 2 buildings at the time, and the idea was that one was quite contemporary and one was your traditional New England, sort of historic Victorian style inn. And the idea was to create something that felt like it was born together, and then to add on an additional building, rebuild an additional piece of land, and bring it all together so it felt as if it was all seamless and built at the same time. And in doing that, we could not change any part of the architecture. It was grandfathered in. Catherine Weir, who owned the resort for quite a long time, she had it grandfathered in back in the 90s with the town of a master plan. So when we inherited this, we could not make any changes to the height or any changes at all with the building. So the architects got together with the designers, and they came up with this contemporary feel. You notice we have a lot of glass, and glass is beautiful. The idea was that you can have glass balcony, you can see the water. Everything was about the view. And that was part of the concept. It was contemporary, stylish, a little bit more refined, a little unexpected, similar to the New England Victorian style.
And so before or when you took this job, you took the job as a consultant, then you decide to stay on full time and ultimately move your life here. I'm curious, what was your concept of Maine, of this area, before you moved here? You lived in Arizona, you lived in Texas, you've lived in a lot of places that are nothing like this.
Well, as you mentioned, as soon as you come up the shore road and you go through these meandering little towns, and it's absolutely beautiful. And you're almost transitioning as you arrive into this beautiful location. And then when you come to the top of the Cliff House and you see the cliff and the beautiful ocean, that to me, like having the ocean right around me is just, decadent. And I lived on Martha's Vineyard, and I thought, well, Martha's Vineyard's beautiful. How could I possibly top that? Right. And when I got here, I was just like, wow, actually, this is nicer than Martha's Vineyard.
Wow. Is that a hot take?
Yeah.
Or do you think people would agree with you on that?
Yeah. Well, the vineyard has, 5 little towns and it's beautiful and it's very difficult to get to. And you come up here and it's an hour from Boston. So I felt like I came from Scottsdale and I was like, wow, Maine, is kind of far. But then I was like, oh, it's only an hour from Boston and not what you would expect. But my friends said, where are you going to Maine? Like, that's so far. And I was like, no, it's not all the way up in, they call it down east here.
Yeah.
It's not all the way, far up in Maine. It's right over the border of Portsmouth. It's so close and so convenient. And so it wasn't a tough sell. And Maine, Maine's been so popular since the last 5 years after COVID. And it's a place of, tranquility, and it has the beautiful ocean, and it's pure, and it has fresh air, and everything about the outdoors is, Maine is beautiful for water, you name it.
So have you noticed an uptick in attendance here post-COVID?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Who are the kind of people that have been coming here?
People that love Maine. Yeah. I think Maine's has been on everyone's bucket list. It's always go to Bar Harbor, travel up the coast, and then you travel the entire coast from, and right from when you leave Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and you go all the way up to Bar Harbor. We're really part of the scenic coast for one of the bucket list locations, and Ogunquit and York are Kittery, beautiful Seacoast, very beautiful Seacoast.
Yes, that's right. This is all part of the Seacoast.
If I can just interject. So the travelers that come here in the summer are all up and down from Virginia, DC, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Chicago. And then Portland has a pretty avid airport as well. So Portland brings in from Chicago and some other parts of the country. So it's all about the lift and the airport as well. And then you have all of your Floridians that come up here for the summer, and they stay, some of them have homes, but some of them, live here and travel here 4 or 5 times during the summer. And this is their second home.
Wow. At the Cliff House.
At the Cliff House.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What about international people?
International's kind of changed since COVID, but we're starting to see more international travel.
Okay. The Cliff House, as we look at it today. Let's start with the rooms. I saw 226 rooms.
That's correct.
Okay. Paint a picture for the audience here into just your standard room. What are they going to walk in and see?
I'll try nothing standard. So we have 40 suites, which are very popular. All of our rooms are oceanfront. They're very...
Every single one.
Every single room has a view of the ocean. Some of them have a view of the coast and the ocean. Some of them are immediately right on the ocean. You can hear the waves splashing in the evening. They all have terraces, and they are all very stylish and very, the personality of Maine is simple and bold. And we embrace that as well as coastal. So we have, like the shirt you're wearing right now, you're right on brand with us, bold and blue and beautiful. So that's sort of the idea. And we wanted everyone to really focus on the ocean and focus on just the view in front of them. And so we have binoculars in the rooms, and we have a place for them to dine. And, we have a beautiful large TV, which we hope no one really turns on, but they do. And very white and crisp design. White, crisp blue. And we have a lot of nautical elements in the rooms. We have nautical ropes in the bathrooms for the towels, and cleats for hanging, hooks. And we have these, you probably won't see it today, but we have these blue checkered robes, and you'll see our guests walking around the hotel all day and night with robes on, whether they're going to the hot tub or they're coming out of their room. That would be at the bar.
Gosh,
yeah,
I'm
it's pretty incredible.
Right now.
Yeah.
Do people, once they're staying here, do they ever leave the resort? Why would you want to?
Well, I would say that a lot of them don't. We'd like them to go and experience the area so they can see the beautiful charm of the villages nearby. But some people just spend most of their time, staring at the ocean. We have music all the time. So we have entertainment. We have a movie theater. Lots for them to do. Yeah, we have an artist in residency program as well. So there's a lot of opportunity to enjoy the resort without leaving the resort.
Oh my gosh. All right. I want to talk about all of those. So music, what kind of music are we having here?
Oh, all different types of music, from jazz, piano to like rock to
that are just set up playing around the resort, or there's a specific hall to go watch them perform?
Outside the restaurant, there's a lounge called Tide Mark Lounge. And in the summer, we have nightly music there. In addition to that, we also have music at the family pool. We have a different entertainer all the time. And we have a restaurant called the Portside, which is new to us, which is the deck overlooking the north side of the property. We have music out there a few nights a week. And then in the terrace, we also have music. So we really have a wide range.
And this movie theater, what are we showing there?
Movie theaters, 2 movies a day. And in the summer, we have a children's movie during the day, sometimes at night, but we play to the audience. So nostalgic movies and then some cutting edge movies as well.
Wow. And are those well attended too? Or like you said with the TV, you don't want people watching the TV?
It's random. Sometimes you'll see, last night I went in there and there were 2 little children in there, not with their parents, but there were 2 kids in there and they were watching a kids movie and they were just having fun. And they're the old movie chairs, you know, the red movie chairs.
Oh, I love that.
So it feels very private.
Wow. Okay. Fire pits, are there?
I could never have enough fire pits or enough hot tubs. Okay. Absolutely. There's a big fire pit outside Bald Head Coffee. And it's a nice little coffee shop and market. And there's a big fire pit there. The best views of the resort. It's on Overlook Terrace. That's beautiful. And then we also have hot tubs outdoors. We have a family pool and we have a family hot tub. We have a resort pool and a resort hot tub as well for anyone over 13. We also have a lot of art, if you notice, when you travel the resort. Van Ward Gallery hosts a gallery in the hotel for us. And Tom Glover is a local artist, and we feature a lot of local artists here. And we change that out several times a year. Are you familiar with the artist colony locally? A
little bit, like in Agunquit, there's a lot of artists, right?
Yeah, and it started as an artist colony years ago. Okay. And so we celebrate art as part of our personality. We have sculpture gardens outside. We have Mark Pettigrew's bronze sculptures here as well. Jordan Smith's granite chasing waves sculptures. Lots of art. We have beautiful, amazing artists locally.
Wow. All right. So in my past, I've worked in some pretty cool places. So I worked at ESPN in Connecticut, which had this amazing college style campus of just like state of the art equipment, like amazing place. I worked at Spotify. I worked at our World Trade Center offices, which were super bougie and of sweeping views of New York City, which was incredible. But after being in there the 15th time, the majesty, it just kind of becomes wallpaper for you. And you kind of lose the perspective of just how cool and impressive this space is. I'm wondering for you, you've been here basically a decade now. Has it lost its majesty for you at all?
No, I can't imagine that ever happening. When I walk outside and I just see the mighty Atlantic, it kind of like takes over and it puts everything in perspective. And you just look and you go, wow. I mean, just the view. And then it just pulls you back to reality. And then I love art and we change our art out all the time. And for our guests, we always want to have a surprise, something new all the time. We evolve every year and we try something different. And that's part of what makes it fun for me too, is always having something refreshing and different. And so our guests have these elements of surprises and that makes it fun.
Yeah. You mentioned a big part of getting into the industry way back when was you like helping people de-stress and forget about whatever's going on. Conversely, jobs always stress people out. So I'm wondering, do you get stressed out from this job in this beautiful place? That's helped to make people de-stress?
Yeah. Well, I'm managing people. So I'm managing people as well and that are managing guests. And I can get stressed out, but I just look outside or, I go down to the ocean and I find a nice little hiding spot for an hour and all comes back together and I get a new perspective and absolutely.
Yeah. Look at the ocean, take a dip in the hot tub. You can de-stress yourself pretty easily here.
Yeah. And it's a fun job. I mean, we have an amazing owners. We have an amazing location. We have a lot of beautiful guests that come back year after year and it's like family, you get to see people and return in the summer. And then in the winter, we are put to the challenge of capturing our guests back for the winter and captivating them with different events. Last night we had the dueling pianos. We had almost 120 guests, dancing and singing to dueling pianos. And we have ice bars in the winter and lots of fun things.
In the winter, are we still getting people from all around the country, or is it mainly people going on local retreats?
I would say within 200 to 300 miles.
Yeah.
In Boston, you're always looking for something to do in the winter. So if we have, an ice bar, everybody comes up here. They're looking for something interesting to do. If you're not a skier and you're going to the ski resorts and you want romance or a culinary experience or we have a beautiful spa, our guests come up here. Our spa is busier in the winter than in the summer.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, spa and wellness. We have spa and wellness retreats. Absolutely.
What does the spa entail?
Well, the spa sits right above, inside the cliff. So you have a beautiful relaxation lounge in the cliff. We have massages and facial. We have an aesthetic studio, body treatments. We have, we have a visiting therapist and providers as well. One from Japan who's a reflexologist. But the talent that we have with our providers, they're just amazing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you can just go. You don't need to be staying at the Cliff House to be able to go to the wellness, right?
Well, ideally it's first set up for the guests of the hotel, and then they do open it to local residents. We have a lot of loyalty from our locals, and they can absolutely make a reservation. But if you're staying at the resort, you have, exclusive times. Gotcha.
Any fun memories, stories come to mind for you that have really left an impact on you emotionally when you look back on your 8 years here?
There's so many. I mean, I can't even begin to start with the stories, but I think, we have a family that comes every year. July 4th is always memorable for us. We have the fireworks off the cliff, and we have just traditionally a lot of families that return, and you'll see them from 2 years old. And in my 8 years, some of them watching them grow up is amazing. And the kids just have a good time, and the families. And then somebody just returned this year and they got engaged. And, we watched the whole relationship develop because they would bring their boyfriend up with them and the whole family, and it's really fun.
And to that point, you do host weddings, corporate events. What is a wedding like here?
Weddings, magical. This is, particularly like for our guests that lived in the area, grew up on the Seacoast. Their family has maybe a home here. They've always wanted to get married where they summered every year. We have a beautiful area at the other end of the property, North Point Lawn. They can have an outdoor wedding. And then they have this beautiful ballroom that has these beautiful chandeliers that float like stars on the ceiling. And you have this Atlantic Ocean right in front of you. It's very magical.
That sounds magical. I would love to attend a wedding here. If anyone has a wedding coming up at the Cliff House, please invite me.
Yeah, we have one wedding for the day. It's not, it's one exclusive wedding that we, would cater to.
Yeah. I had a conversation with the head of tourism for the city of Portsmouth at the beginning of summer or just before, and she was concerned about tourism to downtown Portsmouth for the summer for several reasons. International relations not so great right now because of what's going on in the country. We were trying to convince Canadians to come hang out this summer. And then, of course, just the economy right now, there's lots of uncertainty, obviously. And so people are less willing to spend on a nice vacation like at Cliff House. So how is the attendance been at the Cliff House for you? Did you see any sort of effect of the economy on business here this summer?
I think the only effect that we've really seen with the economy is more short-term business. And every year I say it's short-term business. In other words, someone's not planning their trip 6 months ahead of time. There is a large percentage of our guests that do, but there was definitely more of a shorter term where it's 2 weeks out. What am I doing? And they'll come and have this beautiful, luxurious vacation 2 weeks out. And that was really the only trend that was different from the previous years. But we have more business than we had last year.
Really?
The summer is busier than than my 8 years that it's been.
Oh, wow.
So we haven't really seen that. And international, I think it's slowly coming back. But a lot of it depends on the lift into Logan and what that feels like and travel. But we haven't felt the difference with our guests at all.
Was that a concern for Cliff House at the beginning of summer?
Not so much at the beginning of the summer. I think at the beginning of the year, you heard a lot about different, travel patterns. We look and see what our pace is, what's happening for the summer. Are people reserving for the summer? We run pretty high occupancies in the summer right through Columbus Day, and people are booking for next week. And I'm like, gosh, so is that a lack of planning? Is that from the economy, or is that because somebody doesn't know what their plans are from week to week? Maybe they work remote. Maybe they're driving and they're not flying, and they decide just let's have a getaway. We didn't plan anything. We didn't go overseas this year, so maybe we should do something more local.
Yeah, I would venture to guess it's the uncertainty aspect of it. People don't want to book out 6 months in advance because, gosh, who knows where I'll be 6 months from now.
Yeah, and look, last week, a couple of days ago, the stock market was on fire. So maybe we got a lot of calls and people said, oh, things are good. My stock is up. Let's go travel.
Yeah. And in the winter, is there a big drop off in attendance, or is it still pretty consistent?
Yeah. And so in the winter, we open on Thursday, we close on Monday.
Okay.
So everything's open. So when we open full steam with all the restaurants, with the spa, and we are pretty busy on the weekends. It's difficult to get a room on a Saturday night.
Yeah. Talk to me about the restaurants here. We love food here on the Seacoast. What are some of the offerings?
First of all, we have an amazing restaurant team and very talented culinary team. We embrace the locally sourced lobster and seafood and beautiful, dairy farms that we have in New Hampshire, and vegetables. And we have a signature scallops and lobster fried rice is one of our amazing items. But the chefs are always creating something fantastic. In Tiller, which is our signature restaurant, which is right on the waterfront, it's right on the ocean. They have a menu that they'll be launching. They launch seasonally. They have a new winter menu that they'll be launching, and you can come in the bar and you can have you can have mussels and oysters. There's so many fantastic items on the menu. And then we have lobster, and we have a lobster tank. We have Nubs, named after Nubba Lighthouse.
Of course.
Nubs Lobster Shack. We have a coffee shop.
Which serves barred coffee out of Portland.
Barred coffee, right? Thanks to Bob and Carmen up in Portland. They have a roastery up there, and we have their signature coffee. And then we also have Portside Cafe. We also have in-room dining as well for those that want to have more romantic experience in their suite or in their guest room.
What's your favorite restaurant?
I love them all.
Smart answer. What's your favorite meal at one of these restaurants?
I obviously lobster rolls with butter, is in Nubs. The chefs are always creating something new. So they're always, the other day I had this ahi tuna with cucumbers from Chef Kyle's garden and a little caviar on top. That was amazing. But they're always topping something different all the time. So always experimenting.
I'm going to have to put a disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. Do not listen if you are hungry.
Yeah. Well, then we also have these phenomenal desserts as well, and a lot of homemade breads and desserts. So
I don't know the prices off the top of my head, but from what I've heard, people who've stayed here, it is on the pricier side. Obviously, you get a lot for your money here. But for someone who looks at the costs of what it costs to stay here and is on the fence about it, what would you say to them to get them over the edge?
I would say that it's a really magical experience. And I think it's something that everyone should have on their bucket list. We have a lot of guests that come back all the time. So they're feeling that there's a lot of value in what they do, but just having the location itself is amazing. But our staff is amazing. They will take such great care. And we have so many guests that come here for celebrations, for whether they just got they just got engaged on the cliff, or they're coming back for their 50th anniversary. It's a great place for families to gather, and they return. So there's something magical about that.
Talk to me about the staff. How many people work here?
We have about just close to 400 staff members, and about over 20 different countries. We have international staff as well.
Okay.
And we have a lot of local residents that, locals from Maine, New Hampshire travel. Some of our staff travel as far from the northern Boston area as well. Yes.
Laura, who runs marketing here, drives from Vermont.
Yes, we have several that hail from Vermont. That's correct.
That's wild. That just goes to show how special the place is. Because that's traveling, that kind of commute takes a lot out of you. So the fact that people want to work here that badly to do that commute, I think says a lot.
We're very fortunate. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that we should cover that we haven't?
Troy, I'm sure I'm missing something. So let's see. No, just you'll have to spend a night here and experience it.
I'm going to have to. I need people to get married here.
Yeah.
And so I need weddings to come to.
When I mentioned about the Chile restaurant and the Tidemark Lounge, we also have an outdoor terrace as well, which is quite popular. So hopefully you'll get some footage of that as well.
Would you ever consider building a podcast studio here?
I would.
There you go. We could record Seacoast stories live from the Cliff House.
That's right.
There's an idea for you guys.
The theater. How about the theater?
Does that have views?
The Hartwick Theater. On the screen.
Because my current dream for the show is to be in downtown Portsmouth, overlooking the Memorial Bridge on the Piscataqua River, and to kind of have that be the backdrop for big windows like these. But I could also reroute those dreams to the Cliff House if possible. So,
well, that's right. That's right. I know you're a little bit newer to the area, but I talked about art being such a big part of our roots as well, and the area. There's the Ogunquit Museum of American Art, which is just a little mile and a half up the road, which is beautiful, great scenery, right on the coast, right actually off of one of those channels there. And then there's also Perkins Cove, which has beautiful shops.
I've heard of that. Haven't been.
Great restaurants, MC Perkins and some other restaurants there.
Right.
And then there's the Ogunquit Playhouse, which is a phenomenal.
Haven't been there either.
A phenomenal playhouse of New England.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then there's this, people are going to be so mad at me. The Causeway? Is that what it's called? Like this big walkway in Ogunquit?
Oh my gosh. No, it's Marginal Way.
Marginal Way. Yikes.
I think the Causeway is down in New Jersey, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. No. That's a really great part of LBI. There's Marginal Way, and Marginal Way is a historic walkway that's on the edge. It's about a mile and a half all the way down. It goes all the way down towards the Ogunquit River, which goes to the beach, and you can walk along there.
Okay.
And right now, the last few days, there were big waves coming, so you can watch the surfers out there as well. But it has, it's a beautiful walkway, and it has benches you can sit on, really scenic and rocky. That's one of the most beautiful walkways to enjoy here in the area.
Any famous people that have stayed
Lots
here?
Lots of famous people.
Ooh, who are some of the famous people?
Can't really talk about that.
No, why not?
Not really, no.
Do they have like security teams and such when they're here?
Yeah, all sorts. Yeah, we have some fun sports figures and
fun.
Yeah, an artist.
Certain Boston Celtics, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps.
I won't pester you too much. I'm just
Thank you.
kidding.
I do appreciate that.
Well, I thank you so much for joining the show. We have one final question. We ask the same final question at the end of every episode every week, and I'll ask it to you. If you were to leave this earth tomorrow, how would you want to be remembered?
Great question. I missed that on your last podcast.
Yeah, you didn't get to the end.
Yeah, I didn't get to the end. I would want to be remembered as a thoughtful, caring person that enjoyed life and wanted to help people celebrate their life.
I'd say you're doing a pretty good job of that.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
My pleasure.